Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos. The main character, after dying, he gets reborn as Magneto inside of DC. What will Magneto do inside of DC? How will the DC universe change because of Magneto being inside of it?
If your system works, I can use it to create energy independence. That benefits us both. You speak of mutual benefit, I said. I speak of practical alignment, he said. You protect Gotham. I protect Metropolis. Together, we eliminate interference from both the government and the League. His logic was efficient. He did not disguise ambition behind ideology. That made him predictable. I turned back toward the console beside him. The display showed data charts of alloy samples, their molecular patterns identical to the Cadmus material but denser, cleaner. You have improved their resistance, I said. He nodded. My engineers developed a variant using synthetic tungsten fusion. It resists 90% of electromagnetic interference. With your input, we can make it completely neutral. I extended my hand. A small sample rose from the tray on the nearby table and floated toward me. The metal rotated slowly in the air. Its magnetic resonance was faint but measurable. Your design is incomplete, I said. The orientation still relies on layered polarity. He nodded. I expected you'd notice. You require alignment calibration, I said. Your engineers lack precision. That's why I need you, he said. You understand how to correct it. You assume I would cooperate, I said. I assume you're smart enough to see the value, he said. We regarded each other in silence for several moments. His confidence remained unshaken. He did not flinch under scrutiny. Finally, I lowered my hand. The metal sample returned to the tray. You will send me your full research data, I said. Every prototype, every alloy composition. He nodded. In exchange for what? I will provide you a corrected polarity model, I said. That will stabilize your alloy completely. He smiled faintly. Agreed. I stepped back. You will not attempt to replicate my grid, I said. I won't, he said. Not without your consent. I do not give it, I said. Understood, he said. I turned toward the exit. Your ambitions will lead you to conflict with Waller, I said. He smiled slightly. They already have. I prefer to stay ahead of her. You believe you can outthink her, I said. I already have, he said simply. I regarded him for a long moment. If you betray me, I will know, I said. He nodded. And if you don't, we both win. I left the laboratory. The corridor lights reflected softly off the steel walls as I walked. The air remained sterile, the sound of machinery distant. When I reached the outer platform, I lifted into the air once more. Below, the facility continued its work, machines moving, lights pulsing in steady rhythm. I accelerated toward Gotham, the city's magnetic pole guiding me. When I returned to the base, the chamber lights brightened automatically. The grid resumed direct synchronization. The data from Lex Luthor's facility had already been transmitted. He had kept his word. I examined the files. His alloys were structurally sound but inefficient under stress. I began adjusting the polarity sequence manually, correcting the inconsistencies. Within minutes, the simulated model stabilized. The resistance reached 100%. I saved the corrected version under restricted access. Cyborg's voice came through the COMM. You met Luthor? I did, I said. He's not trustworthy, he said. I am aware, I said. What did he want? Cooperation, I said. And he received calibration data, I said. Cyborg sighed. You gave him something. I gave him correction, I said. He will use it. I will monitor it. He paused. You think he'll keep his word? I think he will act in his interest, I said. For now, it aligns with mine. Cyborg sounded unconvinced but said nothing further. The connection ended. I returned to the console. The grid resumed its normal rhythm. The generator's hum remained constant. I examined the energy flow through the city one final time before locking the new parameters. Gotham's magnetic stability was perfect. Waller's surveillance remained blind. Luthor had his correction. Everything functioned as intended. Chapter 14, The Confrontation at the Summit. The magnetic grid of Gotham ran as expected, calm, balanced, efficient. I monitored its rhythm in silence. The improved alloy schematics from Luthor's facility had integrated smoothly, though I had locked his data out of my core systems. He now had the correct formula, but not the harmonics necessary to reproduce my work. Cyborg's connection to the grid remained active. His signal showed no abnormal patterns, but his tone had shifted subtly during recent exchanges. His concern was increasing. Batman's too. I had expected as much. At 8:20, a new energy trace appeared on the outer perimeter of the field. It was not magnetic, it was technological, military grade. The pattern matched a surveillance drone network orbiting at high altitude. Argus. The grid bent its frequencies automatically, rendering the surveillance blind. The interference remained in place for 3 minutes before vanishing. Then came a message. The transmission was clear, encrypted through government channels but addressed specifically to me. It carried no preamble, only a voice controlled, familiar, calm. Magneto, Amanda Waller said. We need to talk. Her tone was steady. I opened the communication line. You continue to test my patience, Director, I said. I could say the same, she replied. But unlike you, I prefer meetings over messes. Your last meeting involved soldiers invading my city. They were a mistake, she said flatly. You made your point. They won't be back. Then you have learned, I said. I've learned that you're working with Lex Luthor, she said. I remained silent. Don't waste my time, she continued. I have the full data packet from LexCorp's latest transmission. You gave him correction algorithms for his new alloy project. You also destabilized my own Cadmus division's research by shutting down their satellite. I did what was necessary, I said. You don't decide what's necessary, she said sharply. I do, I said calmly. She exhaled once, the sound controlled. You're creating a diplomatic problem, Magneto. Luthor's actions already put you on the League's radar. You're operating without oversight inside US borders. The President wants answers, and I'm the one he expects to provide them. Then provide them, I said. I will, she said. But we're doing it face to face. You have 1 hour. Location attached. The transmission ended. The coordinates led to an elevated meeting space in Metropolis, a neutral ground within the LexCorp financial tower. The location itself was deliberate. Waller intended to use Luthor's own infrastructure as her stage. I closed the console and secured the base systems. The field continued autonomously as I ascended toward the surface. The sky above Gotham was clear, the air sharp with cold. I rose into the air and followed the magnetic path east toward Metropolis. The city came into view within minutes, bright and clean against the horizon. I sensed Luthor's energy grid pulsing faintly beneath its streets, much like my own system in Gotham. The LexCorp tower stood higher than the others, its structure of polished steel reflecting morning light. As I approached, the automatic defense systems recognized me. Their targeting software powered down. Luthor had prepared for my arrival. The roof platform was wide, with the helipad at its center. A small group waited there. Amanda Waller stood at the front, her posture upright, her expression impassive. 2 Argus agents stood at her sides, their weapons holstered. She looked at me as I landed. "You're on time," she said. "I am always punctual," I said. Her eyes studied my armor briefly, her tone steady. "You and I both know why we're here. Gotham's under your control. That's not sustainable." "It functions efficiently," I said. "Functionality isn't legality," she said. "I do not recognize your authority," I said. "You're in my country," she said. "I am in a city that neglected its own systems," I said. "I repaired what your government could not." Her expression did not change. "Lex Luthor tells me you believe you're protecting Gotham. He also tells me you plan to expand your grid." "I plan nothing of the sort," I said. "Then you won't mind telling me what he's building in Metropolis," she said. "You already know," I said. She folded her arms. "I know what he told me. I don't believe it." "Then you doubt your ally," I said. "He's not my ally," she said. "And neither are you." "I am not interested in alliance," I said. "You're interested in control," she said. I regarded her evenly. "I am interested in order." "You're splitting hairs," she said. "You're not the first person to think the world runs better when they're the one running it." "I succeed where others fail," I said. "You sound like Luthor," she said dryly. "Then perhaps you should speak with him," I said. She stepped closer. "I already did." I raised an eyebrow slightly. "And what did he say?" "He said you're efficient, dangerous, and useful," she said. "He also said he can control you." I gave a faint tilt of my head. "He was mistaken." "I figured as much," she said. "But that's not the point. You've become a variable, and I don't like variables. I need stability." "Then we agree," I said. "No," she said, her voice hard. "We don't. Stability doesn't mean one man with God-level power manipulating cities from underground." I stepped forward. The magnetic field shifted faintly around me. Her agents tensed but did not draw their weapons. "You misunderstand what I am," I said. "No," she said. "I understand exactly what you are. I've dealt with meta-humans long enough to know the type. You take control, call it structure, and when people push back, you crush them." "I crush only what resists logic," I said. "Logic?" she repeated. "You justify it however you want, but what you're doing still violates international law." "I am beyond your jurisdiction," I said. She nodded once. "You keep saying that. You won't be for long." "You threaten me," I said. "I warn you," she said. "The League might hesitate." "I don't." I studied her silently. Her composure remained solid, her eyes steady. There was no fear, only calculation. "Luthor wants to use you," she continued. "You know that. He's not building energy systems. He's building weapons." "I am aware of his nature," I said. "Then why help him?" she asked. "Because I choose to," I said. She exhaled once through her nose. "You're either lying or you're worse than I thought." "I am neither," I said. "I am simply unrestrained by the illusions you maintain." She ignored the comment. "You're on a line, Magneto. You've built something no one else can replicate, but that doesn't mean you're untouchable. I have authority. I have resources. If I decide you're a threat, you disappear." "I do not disappear," I said. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Everyone disappears. Some faster than others. The air around us shifted as the magnetic field intensified. The steel beneath our feet vibrated faintly. Her agents moved instinctively, hands near their holsters. "Enough," she said quietly, her voice controlled but sharp. The vibration stopped. She adjusted her jacket slightly, regaining full composure. "You want to play your own game, fine. But understand this: Lex Luthor doesn't share power. The League won't tolerate you forever. And I don't like you operating in my cities." "You may dislike it," I said. "You will endure it." "You've got confidence," she said. "I'll give you that." "It is not confidence," I said. "It is certainty." She glanced toward her agents. "You done?" "I am," I said. She nodded. "Then listen carefully. You stay in Gotham. You keep your grid there. You cross into another city, and I bring everything I have down on you. Argus, Cadmus, even the League if I have to." I watched her for a moment. "You will not succeed." "Maybe not," she said. "But I'll make you wish I did." She turned to leave, signaling to her agents. They followed without hesitation. She stopped briefly at the exit. "Luthor's playing both sides," she said. "He's feeding you information while feeding me yours. You might want to think about that." "I already have," I said. She gave a small, humorless smile. "Then we'll see who thinks faster." She left the platform. The sound of the elevator descending echoed briefly through the structure before silence returned. I stood alone, the city stretching beneath me. The faint hum of Metropolis's power grid resonated through the steel beneath my feet. I extended my hand slightly. The metal responded instantly, humming in recognition. The city's infrastructure was strong but unrefined. Luthor's work was efficient, but not elegant. I adjusted the magnetic field around the tower, neutralizing the Argus surveillance devices she had left behind. Their circuits failed instantly, leaving only silence. I rose into the air and left the tower, returning toward Gotham. The wind rushed past as the landscape below changed from polished metal to urban sprawl. When I reached the city, the grid greeted me with familiar precision. The hum of the bass deepened as I entered. Cyborg's signal reconnected immediately. "You met Waller," he said. "I did," I said. "She didn't attack." "She attempted conversation," I said. He gave a quiet hum of thought. "That's worse." "She will continue to interfere," I said. "Probably," he agreed. "But she's scared now." "That's something." "She does not fear me," I said. "She will," he said. "Perhaps," I said. He paused. "Luthor won't like that you met her in his tower." "I do not concern myself with his comfort," I said. Cyborg sighed. "I'll keep an eye on her communication channels. She's already contacting Luthor again. You can bet she's planning something." "She always is," I said. He gave a small chuckle. "You two deserve each other." I did not reply. The connection closed. I turned toward the generator and adjusted the field slightly. The vibration through the chamber steadied, clean and even. The grid pulsed softly across the monitors. Above ground, Waller would be reporting to her superiors. Luthor would be crafting his next step. Gotham remained silent, stable, untouched. I placed both hands on the console, ensuring every magnetic frequency aligned with proper calibration. The readings held firm. The system functioned without flaw. The conversation had changed nothing. The city remained mine to govern. Chapter 15, The Proposal of Industry. The hum of the grid was steady. The generator lights pulsed in measured rhythm, reflecting across the steel panels of the chamber. I had been reviewing data for several hours. Gotham's magnetic balance remained exact, neither fluctuation nor outside interference detected since the meeting with Amanda Waller. She had left the tower with words she believed carried weight. They did not. Her behavior, however, had produced consequence. I expected she would move again, likely through indirect channels. I was correct. At 7:19, the outer communication sensors activated. The frequency belonged to LexCorp's internal channel. It carried the same encryption signature as before, but with a higher security level. I opened the channel. Lex Luthor's voice came through clearly. "Magneto," he said. "You're a difficult man to reach." "I respond when I choose to," I said. "I assumed as much," he said. "You've had an eventful week." "Waller doesn't usually walk away from meetings without taking something." "She took nothing," I said. "She took information," he said. "She's already using Cadmus assets to develop a counter-magnetic weapon. I know because she used my stolen research to do it." I looked at the monitor, examining the transmission data. His tone carried restrained irritation. "Explain," I said. "She's building a counter-field generator," he said. "It's based on an early version of my own alloy design. One of my engineers leaked the prototype schematics. She's using them to create a system that can neutralize your control field." "Impossible," I said calmly. "Not entirely," he said. "Crude, inefficient, but dangerous. If she manages to stabilize it, she could disrupt localized magnetic balance inside Gotham." "She would risk her own destruction," I said. "She doesn't care," he said flatly. "She's betting on shock value. A single demonstration would be enough to justify a full League intervention." "You called to warn me," I said. "I called to offer a solution," he said. "I can stop her before she finishes the device. But I'll need your help." I studied his signal for several seconds. "Continue." "I have the location of her test site," he said. "An old Cadmus substation outside Metropolis. She's using it to manufacture the generator. My access there is limited. You can reach it without triggering Argus defenses." He paused briefly. "If we act together, we can destroy the prototype before it's operational. You eliminate the risk, and I recover my stolen data. Everyone wins." "You seek to use me as your weapon," I said. "I'm offering cooperation," he said evenly. "You want Gotham left alone. I want my technology secure. Waller's existence threatens both." I said nothing for a long moment. The sound of the generator filled the silence. Finally, I spoke. "Send me the coordinates." "They're on their way," he said. "Once you confirm, I'll meet you there." The transmission ended. The data appeared on the console immediately. "Coordinates east of Metropolis, near the remnants of a decommissioned research outpost." I examined the satellite images. The facility's outer structure was heavily shielded, but its foundation contained metallic elements easily detectable through magnetic resonance. I secured the grid and activated the field's autonomous control. Then I rose from the console and ascended to the surface. The morning sky over Gotham was grey with scattered clouds. The air was cold, clean, still. I lifted into the air, surrounded by magnetic current, and accelerated east. The landscape shifted beneath me from steel to open plains. Within minutes, I reached the outskirts of Metropolis. The facility appeared ahead, a square compound of reinforced alloy and concrete, partially hidden beneath layers of camouflage netting. Energy signatures pulsed faintly from underground. I descended. The ground vibrated slightly as I landed. The outer defense systems detected my approach and activated, turrets swiveling toward me. Their targeting software engaged instantly. I raised one hand, and the magnetic field bent their barrels aside. The turrets shut down. The main door opened. Lex Luthor stood inside, flanked by 2 of his private security drones. He wore his standard business attire, calm, collected, deliberate. "Efficient as always," he said. "Show me the device," I said. He gestured toward the corridor. "Follow me." We walked in silence through the dimly lit passage. The walls were lined with panels of experimental plating, most of it Cadmus-made. The faint hum of machinery filled the air. We entered the central chamber. The generator stood at the center, a large cylindrical machine encased in alloy plating. Several engineers worked nearby, their movements hurried and precise. Lex motioned for them to step back. "This is what she built," he said. "Or rather, what she's trying to build. My stolen research formed the base of it." I approached the machine. The magnetic field around it was faint but disordered. "It is unstable," I said. "It will be once it's activated," he said. "That's the problem. It's designed to release short-range magnetic interference. If she refines it, it could disrupt small-scale fields. That includes yours." "She does not understand the principle of balance," I said. "She doesn't need to," he said. "She just needs results." I examined the structure carefully. The outer shell carried the same resonance as his improved alloy but with reversed polarity. "This is your technology," I said. "Yes," he admitted. "I told you. My engineer leaked it. Waller got it through him." "You are careless," I said. He gave a faint smile. "Occasionally. But I adapt." I placed my hand against the outer plating. The vibrations confirmed what I had already suspected: the generator's core was incomplete. "She lacks proper alignment," I said. "She'll fix that soon," he said. "Her scientists are capable." "Not capable enough," I said. He folded his arms. "So what do you suggest?" I turned toward him. "We destroy it." He nodded slightly. "Simple. Effective. But we need to make sure no trace remains. If she keeps the design files, she can rebuild it." "She will," I said. "I can erase them," he said. "Her systems still run through Cadmus's network. I have access codes. You handle the physical part. I handle the digital one." "Then proceed," I said. He moved toward the nearby terminal, activating his interface device. The screens flickered as he accessed the remote servers. I extended my hands toward the generator. The magnetic field around me intensified, filling the chamber with low vibration. The engineers backed away in silence. The generator began to rise slowly from the floor. Its outer shell creaked under the force of my control. The bolts securing it tore free one by one. "Almost done," Lex said, his attention on the terminal. "She's got layers of encryption, but they're sloppy." I tightened my focus. The magnetic current around the generator increased. The internal structure collapsed inward, folding in on itself. Sparks erupted from the machinery as circuits overloaded. Lex looked up briefly. "That's effective." The machine imploded completely. The debris fell to the ground in a neat, compact mass of twisted metal. The energy readings on the nearby monitors dropped to 0. Lex pressed a final command on the terminal. "Her database is gone," he said. "Every file deleted." "Then it is finished," I said. "For now," he said. "She'll notice soon. When she does, she'll assume you're responsible." "She would not be wrong," I said. He smiled faintly. "You don't worry about the consequences." "I do not fear her," I said. "You should," he said. "She's not like the others. She'll retaliate in ways you can't predict." "I predict everything," I said. He studied me briefly, then nodded. "I suppose you do." We left the chamber together. The engineers resumed their work, clearing the remains of the destroyed generator. The air smelled faintly of ozone and burned alloy. As we walked back through the corridor, Lex spoke again. "You've made yourself the center of a very specific storm," he said. "Waller wants you gone. The League's watching you. And now, thanks to this, I'm involved more directly than ever." "You involve yourself willingly," I said. "I involve myself where it benefits me," he said. "And you believe this does," I said. "I know it does," he said confidently. "Every crisis is an opportunity. You destroyed her project. That gives me leverage." "You will use it," I said. "Of course," he said. "I always do." We reached the exit. The light outside had shifted, the sun climbing higher through the clouds. The wind carried faint traces of dust from the surrounding plains. Lex turned toward me. "She'll come after you first," he said. "That buys me time." "You are fortunate," I said. He smiled slightly. "I make my own fortune." "You make trouble," I said. He laughed once, quietly. "That too." I said nothing further. I rose into the air. The magnetic current gathered around me, lifting me smoothly above the compound. Lex watched from below, his expression thoughtful but composed. The wind grew stronger as I ascended higher. The facility shrank beneath me until it disappeared completely. When I reached Gotham again, the grid remained stable. Cyborg's signal appeared on the main console almost immediately. "You left the city," he said. "I did," I said. "Where?" "Metropolis," I said. He paused. "Luthor again?" "Yes," I said. He sighed. "You really like keeping busy." "Waller was building a countermeasure," I said. "She what?" he said sharply. "She failed," I said. He exhaled in relief. "You destroyed it." "Yes," I said. "That's good," he said. "Because she's been moving resources all morning. I think she's planning another operation." "She will attempt retaliation," I said. "She's already trying," he said. "Argus just sent a recon drone over Gotham's north sector. I've got the signal. You want me to take it down?" "No," I said. "Leave it. Let her watch what she cannot touch." He chuckled softly. "You really don't make friends easily." "I make none," I said. "I can tell," he said. The connection ended. I turned toward the generator. The chamber vibrated faintly under the magnetic flow. The readings stabilized again within moments. Gotham's power remained constant, secure, unchallenged. Waller had lost her project. Lex Luthor had regained his data. I had removed another variable from the equation. The hum of the grid filled the air again, steady and controlled. The city remained under balance. Chapter 16, Terms under Steel. The grid held steady. The central display showed uniform values along every node. The harbor pylons were aligned. The bridges carried balanced load. The transit lines ran without irregularity. I stood before the console and adjusted the secondary coil by a fraction. The sound of the generator deepened and settled. Cyborg's trace moved in and out of range as he patrolled from the east. His presence schemed the edge of my field and returned. He kept his distance while maintaining watch. That suited me. I expected Batman. I did not schedule him. He arrived like he always did, through silence, through metal that registered pressure without noise. I felt the disturbance 6 corridors away as his weight met an old support plate and transferred a precise signal through the rebar. He was cautious but never hesitant. His steps followed a measured pattern. I opened the locks. The pressure on the door eased. The seal released without sound. He entered and stopped in the threshold. He scanned the room with one slow turn of his head, then walked forward until he stood a few paces from the main dais. His cape fell straight. His breathing was even. "You destroyed Waller's device," he said. "Yes," I said. He watched the readings scroll. There was no movement in his posture, only attention. "Lex Luthor helped you. He provided access," I said. "That is cooperation," he said. "It is limited exchange," I said. He looked at the stacked alloy plates along the far wall. "He took something in return." "He took what he needed to correct his own theft," I said. "He stole from himself by trusting the wrong engineer." Batman's jaw tightened slightly. "You gave him calibration that improves his metallurgy." "I gave him correction so he could not cause further instability through error," I said. "My grid remains my own." He turned his head toward the generator casing. The surface reflected his outline in clean angles. "Your choice invites consequence." "Your director invited more," I said. "She moved to build suppression hardware inside United States territory and planned to test it against a populated city." "She is not my director," he said. The words were short and firm. "You defend the city," I said. "You do not direct it." He did not reply. He stepped toward the nearest terminal and looked at the field map. "I need to know exactly what you gave Luthor." "Polarity corrections. Nothing more." "Show me," he said. I opened a restricted window and projected a clean, redacted schematic, a small set of waveform corrections, no field harmonics, no control lattice, no access to my grid. He studied the shapes without moving his hands. His eyes tracked each line. His voice stayed level. "This improves the stability of a resistant alloy. It does not reproduce your control." "Correct." "He will apply it to weapons platforms," he said. "Yes," I said. "He will apply it to everything." He looked up from the screen. "You know his history." "I know his pattern," I said. "Then you made it easier for him to protect himself from you, from Waller, and from the League," he said. "I made it harder for him to break my city by accident," I said. His gaze remained steady. "You take responsibility for all outcomes." "I take responsibility for my field. I take responsibility for what I allowed." He stared at the schematic once more, then gestured slightly. Cyborg flagged a spike over Metropolis when the substation went dark. He traced the erasure to Cadmus servers. "That points to Luthor's hand." "It points to my purpose," I said. "Purpose isn't the issue," he said. "Proof and control are the issue." "You prefer chain of custody," I said. "I prefer not to clean blood off a street because two people with resources decided they were entitled to act," he said. "No one bled," I said. "This time," he said. I watched him set a small scanner on the console. He did not ask permission. He inclined it slightly and let it read background frequency. He checked the readout and compared it to values in his cowl. He was quiet for 11 seconds. "The grid is holding at your last test level," he said. "It will continue to hold," I said. "We'll confirm," he said. "Bring your tests," I said. "Bring your caution." His fingers hovered over the scanner. He did not touch my interface. He did not try to input commands. He understood the line and did not cross it. "How far did you let Luthor in?" he asked. "Nowhere," I said. "He entered a hallway. He did not enter my work." "He considered that. He'll try again." "He tries everything," I said. Batman stepped past me toward the cadence tower that supported a half-circle of diagnostic pylons. He moved with careful weight. He paused and crossed his arms, then looked at the generator again. His attention stayed on hardware as he spoke. Waller is moving assets from Bloodhaven and Keystone. Argus has a new material vendor. She put a freeze on 3 procurement lines and opened a 4th through a shell company tied to LexCorp. Luthor funds his enemies and collects their receipts, I said. He sets 2 fronts and trades between them, Batman said. He watches who reads the ledger. He already told Waller that he can control me, I said. Batman's mouth shifted a fraction. He told her what keeps her on the phone with him. Do you require reassurance? I said. No, he said. I require boundaries. State them. Stay in Gotham, he said. Keep your grid within city limits. My field respects the river line. My insulation covers the bay to the bridge pylons. My harmonics do not project beyond the port approaches. You crossed into Metropolis to destroy a weapon, he said. I crossed into a decommissioned Cadmus site built to disrupt my balance, I said. That is not the constraint I asked for, he said. You want assurance that this does not turn into a corridor of influence built from one city to the next, I said. Yes. Then I assure you, I said. I will not lay a second grid. I will not extend mine beyond Gotham. He watched me without blinking. Hold to that. I will. A new trace entered the edge of the field. Cyborg descended through the south shaft without hiding his approach. He stepped into the chamber and gave me a nod. I figured you two would already be talking, he said. His tone was steady and professional. You traced the substation spike, Batman said. Yeah, Cyborg said. Argus systems showed a big hole. I can guess who dug it. He glanced at me. You made it clean. I made it finished, I said. Cyborg moved to the auxiliary display and pulled up a satellite feed. Waller's not waiting. She retasked a low-orbit platform. She tried to look through a short window over the Narrows. Your shield blanked it. It will always blank it, I said. Cyborg rubbed his chin lightly. She just pivoted to line-of-sight signals off private aircraft. She's going to try analog redundancy. That buys her a few seconds at a time if a pilot gets lucky. She will not get lucky, I said. Batman remained near the cadence tower. I want to see your logs for the last 6 hours. I want a snapshot of your overflow handling and your load distribution. I opened a controlled pane on a clean screen. You may read output. You may not copy. You may not map the control lattice. He nodded once. He scanned in silence. His pupils tracked numbers. Cyborg watched over his shoulder and adjusted the zoom level with a short gesture. The two of them examined for several minutes. They did not speak. Cyborg broke the quiet first. Your overflow buffer is smart. It's learning. I designed it to adapt within limits, I said. Batman raised his eyes. Limits that you define. Yes, I said. You set the thresholds, he said. Yes, I said. He held my gaze. Then you set the panic triggers. I set the triggers that keep your bridges from falling, I said. He looked back to the screen. Your river span load was high last night. I increased cable tension during a surge at the shipyard. The freight crane operator extended a boom 20% past safe range. The field compensated, I said. Was anyone aware? He asked. The crane operator swore and reset his console. He believed he corrected it, I said. Batman's mouth moved once. You saved his life without his consent. I kept him from killing the drivers beneath him without theirs, I said. Cyborg leaned back slightly and exhaled. This is the part where he says consent is not optional. Batman did not look away from the numbers. Consent is not optional, he said. And collapse is not acceptable, I said. He closed the pane. We're not going to solve this today. He looked toward the west wall. I didn't come to argue arbitration. I came to draw a line. You drew it, I said. He shifted his weight a degree. There is one more condition. State it, I said. If you cooperate with Luther again, you tell me first, he said. I will not submit to oversight, I said. This isn't oversight, he said. It's risk management. It is control, I said. It's accountability, he said. Cyborg looked between us. He's not wrong. I kept my voice level. I will not promise contact before action. Batman nodded like he expected that. Then tell me after. Immediately. I paused. I listened to the generator. I watched the field settle against the chamber walls. I will inform you when it is done. Not before, I said. Do it fast, he said. Yes, I said. He stepped from the dais and took 3 slow paces toward the exit corridor. He stopped. You kept Waller's team alive, he said. I always intended that, I said. Keep it that way, he said. They will not die by my hand, I said. He resumed walking. Cyborg stayed. He listened to Batman's steps move into the tunnel and fade. Cyborg turned to me. He's not happy. He rarely is, I said. He's right to be worried, Cyborg said. Luther's already adapting. He's pushing contracts through shell companies with new identifiers. I can follow some of it. Not all of it. You will follow enough, I said. Cyborg nodded slowly. I will try. He pointed to the West District on the map. Different issue. Your grid hit a tiny hitch when a transformer tripped near Dixon Docks. It cleared fast. I want to test redundancy there. Proceed, I said. He opened a test window. Micro surge. Local only. 2 seconds. He looked over. You ready? Yes. He pulsed the line. The spike appeared and flattened. I felt it as a small change in pressure along the lower rails. I adjusted before it finished. Cyborg grinned, faint and satisfied. 0.1. That's clean. It should be 0, I said. You're hard to please, he said. I expect function without error, I said. Batman's voice returned through Cyborg's channel. He did not show on the doorway. Argus drone vector on 9th. Low altitude. 2 minutes. Cyborg rotated the city view and drew a route line. I have it. He looked at me. Your call. Let it pass, I said. Mislead it. Cyborg lifted his hand. Data flickered across his forearm. Spoofing telemetry. I'll give them a fake gradient over the train yard. It'll look like a subgrid battery. Make it slightly wrong, I said. Cyborg smirked. So they argue with each other about calibration. Yes, I said. He typed, executed, and watched the drone drift off trajectory. It blinked an IR strobe, then cut away. Done, he said. Waller's going to give somebody a bad morning. Good, I said. Batman's voice came back once. I'll sweep the rooftops. She may have a ground observer. Understood, I said. He signed off. Cyborg eyed the lifted alloy plates again. About Lex, he said. He's going to push. He's going to ask for more. He will not receive it, I said. He'll guess at your harmonics. He'll throw money at the problem, Cyborg said. He will find a wall he cannot buy, I said. Cyborg nodded, then rubbed his knuckles as a habit. The motion was human, not mechanical. For what it's worth, he said quietly, thanks for keeping the fighting out of the streets. It is not worth anything, I said. It is required. He shrugged. Okay. He looked to the exit. I'll keep monitoring. If Waller tries a live test again, I'll ping you. Do it, I said. He started to leave, then turned back. One more thing. Superman asked me for a status on the Metropolis spike. I didn't give details. He will come, I said. Yeah, Cyborg said. Probably. He lifted off with controlled thrust through the shaft. The sound faded. I stayed at the console. I reviewed the logs from the drone spoof. The numbers matched my expectation. The field showed no scars. I shifted the river strata by a fraction to compensate for a barge that had drifted against a piling. The cable settled. The load evened out. I opened a secured archive and saved 2 files, the exact calibration I had shown Batman and the complete version I had not. I mapped each to different keys. The complete one would remain mine. The base lights dimmed as the power curve shifted with morning usage. The city stirred. The commuter lines ran. The cranes at the harbor resumed work. A streetcar rolled through a turn without a squeal of metal. The numbers stayed flat and clean. I walked the perimeter of the chamber and checked the seals with a hand to the plates. The edges were tight. The air was cool. The faint scent of ozone lingered from the test. I returned to the dais. The outermost sensor picked up a flick in the high atmosphere. It was small and then gone. A satellite changed attitude and corrected. My shield held. I closed the alert and brought up the bridge view to watch the tension warnings take new loads across morning traffic. Trucks crawled, wind pressed, and the lines settled without strain. I spoke into the room without opening a channel. Cyborg. His voice came back fast. Here. Log a standing schedule, I said. You and Batman return in 48 hours. We run a deeper test. You bring your own search simulator. I allow a limited stress at 3 nodes. Not 4. We stop if a threshold rises above 5%. He was pleased. It carried in his tone. Copy that. I'll build a pack. Batman will have notes. He always does, I said. He chuckled. Yeah. I closed the channel. I increased the strength of the decoy subnodes around the narrows by 2% and copied the parameter to the opposite bank so the network would look symmetrical to a low-skill observer. Waller employed both careful people and careless ones. I planned for both. An hour passed in tasks that mattered. I tightened bolts with thought. I moved power through lines that needed it. I dropped heat out of lines that carried too much. I brought order without announcement. My hands rested when the numbers returned to their lanes. Another hour passed. The atmosphere above the bay warmed a degree. The water turbulence next to the ferry pier sent a short vibration through the supports. I held them and let the motion decay. A firefighter tested a hydrant near Park Row. The rush of water sent a small hammer into the pipe. The flange vibrated. I tightened it without notice and logged the location for replacement. A third hour passed. The Argus drone did not return. The shells beneath the stoops on 9th slouched away and ate on sun-warmed steps. The freighter eased backward from the dock with a horn and a small spray. Everything in the numbers said quiet. At midday, the elevator hummed. It never surprised me. I had opened the lock before the person in the shaft reached it. Batman did not come back. A girl in a faded GCPD jacket reached the threshold and stared at the room with eyes that registered too much and too fast. She stopped on the line of my field and felt the weight. She swallowed. I am Detective Montoya, she said. Commissioner Gordon asked me to deliver a message. Proceed, I said. She looked at my helmet and my hands and the generator with a careful face. He says the city's grid is holding. He says the docks are operating cleaner than he has seen in his career. He says do not forget who it is for. I nodded. Gotham. She nodded back, then left without a step that wasted time. She did not gawk. She did not ask for a tour. She kept her eyes on the floor when she should and on the corners when she should. She might live to old age. The door sealed. The room returned to its measured sound. I stood in the center and listened to the field draw breath through steel and let it out without a tremor. I called no one. I sent no messages. I did work. When night came, the graph lines became tighter as lights turned on and doors locked. The trains sang low through the track beds. The catenary lines buzzed in their bands. The water under the bridge was dark, but it still moved. I watched it on the instruments and kept it from the metal. Cyborg pinged once. Waller's gone quiet, he said. Too quiet. She is writing reports, I said. And plans, he said. I did not answer. The generator hummed. The room kept its even temperature. The city outside carried families into rooms and brought tired men to tables. My numbers did not waver. Batman pinged once, 5 minutes after Cyborg. 48 hours, he said. Yes, I said. He signed off. I lifted a small panel and replaced a minor coil with a cleaner one that I had drawn from a line of scrap in the corner. I tightened the last screw with the most delicate pressure the metal allowed. The screw settled and did not try to turn. The field returned a note at the exact value that made sense. I kept it. Chapter 17, the test above the city. The grid held its numbers across every sector. I watched the field readouts from the central console and confirmed each value manually. The river bridges sat within safe tension. The transit lines matched schedule. The harbor cranes moved inside tolerances. Power usage began to rise with morning load. The generator maintained steady rhythm. Cyborg's trace schemed my perimeter twice and then faded. His patrol pattern followed his usual loop. Batman's signal remained still. He was on the west quarter rooftops. He stayed out of view when he wanted to. The chamber's alert tone sounded once, short and controlled. The high atmosphere sensor registered a single descent vector with no engine signature and no metallic turbulence. It maintained strict speed limits through approach. There was no sonic shock. Air movement was minimal. The field did not feel strained by the passage. The arrival fit one profile. Superman entered Gotham airspace and hovered above the river for 9 seconds. He searched for surveillance devices and civilians on rooftops. He took a slow path along the bridge and then dropped through the empty skylight shaft of the industrial block. He stopped outside the final bulkhead and waited without touching the floor plate. I unsealed the door. The locks released. The entrance opened. He stepped inside. He wore his standard suit. There were no weapons. His expression was composed, not cold. He scanned the chamber once with measured attention and then faced me. His posture held the stillness of someone who could move instantly and chose not to. Magneto, he said. His voice carried steady weight without force. I'm Clark Kent. Most people call me Superman. I know who you are, I said. He nodded once. Cyborg sent me his reports. Batman sent me his as well. I read them. They disagree about some things, but they agree on one. Which is? I asked. You built a city-scale electromagnetic system and tuned it to your command, he said. I'm here to make sure people are safe. You could have come earlier, I said. I was in space, he said. Now I'm here. Cyborg's signal entered the shaft. He chose not to land. His voice sounded over the link. I'm on the outer net. I'll feed live numbers. Batman's on the rooftops. He's watching ground level response. Superman looked at the generator casings and then at my hands. I'm not here to threaten you, he said. I want to observe and test the system. We'll do this with care. You requested a demonstration through a third party and then arrived without warning, I said. I didn't want Waller picking up chatter, he said. I kept the approach quiet. You came alone, I said. He nodded. Yes. Batman's voice came through Cyborg's channel, low and even. City agencies do not have a notice. Keep it that way. No blackouts. No false alarms. Superman kept his eyes on me. Will you allow a demonstration? You will define your parameters, I said. I will decide if they are acceptable. Fair, he said. He lifted one hand, palm open, without taking a step closer. The first concern is non-metal collateral. Pacemakers. Hospital imaging systems. Fire alarms. Gas sensors. Water plant control boards. We test without touching people. We use stand-ins and isolated loads. Acceptable, I said. He turned his head slightly. Victor. Cyborg's tone shifted into operational mode. I've already staged the simulators. North Lab has an isolated cabinet with medical class devices hooked to dummy loads. Hydrants are off network. Gas main test is at the training yard. The house is dry and the line is cold. The meter heads are real. No fuel moves. Superman looked at me. We start with the hospital equipment. You stabilize as needed. I'll watch for out-of-band effects. I opened a channel to the upper corridor. The inner door unlocked. Proceed. We moved through the short hall to the test room. The space was compact and clean. A metal cabinet housed a pacemaker analyzer, an infusion pump, a blood pressure monitor, a crash cart defibrillator wired to test pads, and a portable ultrasound. The cabinet sat inside a Faraday cage on a rubber mat with an independent power source. 3 sensors reported output. Nothing connected to a patient. Nothing linked to the grid. Cyborg hung in the shaft window above and fed numbers to the wall display. He spoke without raising his voice. Medical bay cabinet online. Baseline at 0. No interference. Superman stood 2 steps back from the cage. All right, he said. Magneto, raise your field density through this room by 2%. Hold for a minute. Then modulate within the level you used during bridge compensation. I lifted my right hand. I increased the local field by 2%. The change moved through the rebar, the ceiling mounts, and the casing bolts. I held the value as a flat line. The monitors stayed green. I shifted the modulation through my standard bridge routine, a slow sweep across control bands. The instruments did not flicker. The defibrillator stayed idle. The infusion pump stayed within calibrated flow. Superman watched the screens with close focus. He listened to the room. He listened to me. His face did not change. No deviation, he said. Increase to 4%. Then 8. I took it to 4% and then to 8. I held it. I changed phase within the same range I used during emergency load transfer. There was no interference. He moved closer to the door and glanced down at the pacemaker analyzer. He checked the strip and watched for sense miscount. There was none. Cyborg spoke through the link. No parasitic input. Clean. Superman nodded once. Good. Next. We left the room and crossed to the gas training house. The building was brick. The network routed to deadheads. There was no fuel. A row of standard meter bodies lined the inside wall. Their sensing modules were in place. There were flame detectors and alarm horns designed for drill only. The local board ran on a separate generator. Superman raised his voice enough for Cyborg to hear that he was changing rooms. Victor. Live, Cyborg said. Gas board isolated. Meters cold. Superman looked at me. Increase field density outside, along the house wall. Then run your disruption suppression routine through the alley and hold. I did. The magnetic pressure flowed along the rebar in the alley and the steel brackets in the wall. I ran a standard suppression routine that I use when a transformer trips and emits noise. The gas meters read no concentration change. The flame detectors stayed silent. The alarm horns did not trigger. Superman studied the board. He placed his hand on the brick and then lifted it. No false positive, he said. Now pulse a localized spike like a short arc in a nearby panel. Not here. Just outside. Small. I made a small, tight pulse at the corner. I kept it shallow and brief. The gas sensors remained still. Cyborg chimed in. Nothing. Your pulse was cleaner than a cheap panel even if we had live current next door. This is fine. Superman shifted his focus. Now the water plant simulation. We moved into the third room. A rack of pumps and control boards lay on carts. None connected to any city system. They took wall power from a neutral circuit. The pumps circulated water in a closed loop between two tanks. Strike patterns on the boards matched common models. Raise your field across the room and then cut it, Superman said. Do both cleanly. I want to see if magnetic change creates induction in the low voltage boards. I increased and cut. The water moved with steady pace. The boards held. There was no stray current. The overcurrent lights stayed dark. Superman lowered his chin a degree. It signaled more attention. Now the bridge, he said. We returned to the main chamber and then rose through the elevator to the surface. The air above the docks was cold and clean. The sky showed flat cloud. Traffic on the river bridge flowed at normal speed. There were no foot crowds on the span this early. Superman hovered above the sidewalk and kept his distance from the suspension lines. He looked down at me. I'm going to add wind load across the span, he said. You keep the bridge inside normal sway. Do not overcorrect. No counter sway. No resonance. If I see amplification, I stop. Proceed, I said. He pulled air with a measured breath. The wind moved across the span with slow force. I felt the change in the main cables. I felt the shift in the deck. I adjusted tension in the cable bands and tuned the dampers. I kept sway well inside target. I did not pin the deck. I did not freeze the movement. I let the natural motion occur and balanced it. Batman spoke through the COMM. Pedestrian entry at mid-span. One commuter. He is not in danger. I will keep him off the railing. Superman increased pressure by a small step. I adjusted. He went 2 steps above a normal squall. I responded with small corrections only. I did not induce a second frequency. The deck returned to center. Cars did not shift lanes. The single pedestrian paused to tie his shoe and stood again. He did not look disturbed. Superman lowered down and placed one hand on a vertical. He checked the vibration with his fingers and listened with his hearing. He looked satisfied. No overcorrection. No damping error. Good. He rose and moved to the far tower. Next is a stress test on a single support, he said. I'll press down on the cable with one hand. Local only. You compensate only locally, not across the full span. If you compensate across the full span, you move forces where I don't want them. Understood, I said. He set his palm with exact placement and pressed down with control. I watched the tension meter flick toward the edge and kept my correction within a few meters of his contact point. The rest of the span stayed quiet. He lifted away. The numbers returned to center. He nodded. That matches the standard playbook and stays within safety. He landed beside me on the service walk. He did not touch the railing. Now a different risk. Birds and wildlife. There are reports in other cities of electromagnetic projects affecting animal behavior. Your field runs on harmonics. Show me your biology baseline. I opened the wildlife monitor screen. I did not volunteer excuses. I showed him track signatures for pigeons, crows, and gulls along the river, with time stamps, bats after dusk, fish schooling along the pylons from sonar records. The system measured motion only. It did not tag animals. It did not overlay names. It watched for altered patterns that signal distress. He studied the plots in silence. No clustering near cable housings. No erratic circles. No dead zones. You did this over how long? From the second day, I said. You compare against last year. Yes, I said. The patterns match. There is no change I cause. He kept his eyes on the graph. Good. Cyborg joined us on the walkway. He kept his boots off the live parts. He held a small unit. I brought a pacemaker tester to the field, he said. It's a high-grade simulator. We can carry it in case you want redundant proof. Superman took it, checked the model, and handed it back. We already saw the lab. That's enough for me. He looked across the water. One more. Substation mitigation and fire, he said. We do this with no risk to the city. We use the training yard transformer. It is not tied to grid. It feeds only dummy resistors. We pulse it. You catch it. Proceed, I said. We reached the training yard. A standard transformer sat on an insulated pad. The dummy load sat behind safety tape and a grounded cage with signs everywhere. Cyborg grounded the frame again for his own comfort and then readied the switch. Superman rose to 10 meters and watched for heat with his senses. He looked down at me. We trip it in 3. You absorb and dissipate. No spark. No arc. No heat stack near the fence. Victor, he said. On your mark, Cyborg answered. 3, Superman said. Cyborg threw the switch to create a deliberate fault. I reached in with the field and pulled the pulse into the steel cage of the yard and then dumped it into a coil designed to take it. The air snapped once, quiet. The dummy load accepted the shock. No spark formed. No panel glowed. The grass did not move. Superman looked down with careful attention and then nodded. Safe. Cyborg reset the switch and put the safety key back on his belt. He grinned a little and stood back. I could get used to tests that don't end with a fire crew. Superman dropped to the ground. He folded his arms and looked at me. He did not try to tower. He did not lower his head. He spoke as if we were two people close enough to hear without strain. You built a system that works, he said. It improves a lot of things. It also depends on you. That is true, I said. If you are not here, what happens? He asked. The autonomous mode holds for a finite duration, I said. If I am absent beyond that, Batman and Cyborg have enough data to keep the city stable. They do not have control. They have a playbook for a set of predictable events. Superman looked at Cyborg. Is that accurate? Cyborg kept the levity out of his voice. He gave us the profiles. I can run them in a pinch. I can't expand them. I can't fix the system if it changes in a way the profiles don't cover. But I can keep the lights on until he returns. Superman returned his gaze to me. You will share the safety parameters with the League, he said. Not the control lattice. Not your harmonics. The safety parameters. We need to know the thresholds you run. We need the emergency actions for fire, for earthquake, for flood, for wind, for gas leak, for hospital outages. Nothing more. I held him in my vision. I did not consider for long. You will receive those specific parameters, I said. You will not request beyond them. I won't, he said. But I will audit that those are complete. You audit whatever you want, I said. You will not control what I do. His mouth shifted a millimeter. The expression read as faint satisfaction. I am not here to run your system. I am here to make sure it does not hurt people. It does not, I said. I saw that, he said. He glanced past my shoulder at the skyline. He heard something with his distance senses. He recognized a siren pattern, found the source, and decided it did not require him. He looked back. Waller is not going to stop, he said. I know, I said. She will go around you, he said. She already does, I said. She will try to provoke a public incident, he said. I will not give her one, I said. He nodded. He extended a hand. It was a simple gesture. It did not hold drama. It asked for nothing beyond what it was. I looked at it. I did not take long. I accepted it. His grip held constant pressure. It did not test or squeeze. We released hands. I'll tell the League what I saw, he said. I'll tell them you allowed full observation. I'll tell them you did not trigger any unsafe condition. You may also tell them that I will not leave Gotham, I said. He nodded. Stay with that. He looked toward the river once more. I want one more check. Noise near sensitive people. He pointed to a school by the docks. The building used old wiring and newer lighting. He listened for humming and found none. He looked at me. I heard nothing, he said. That is expected, I said. Good, he said. Batman spoke over the channel. You finished? Yes, Superman said. Then I want you at the Narrows Overlook, Batman said. There's a man with a reporter's camera trying to get a shot of the river pylon. He will not get a second chance to fall off the rail. Superman lifted and moved. He did not need to rush. He vanished from our view and reappeared as a distant blur. He took the camera out of the man's hand and returned it. He put the man on the right side of the rail and spoke to him quietly. The man stopped leaning. Cyborg watched through the live grid. I could put this on the list of top 10 small saves that stop paperwork. Batman replied with a tone that passed for humor in his voice. You are welcome. Superman returned to our position at a measured speed and landed without a step out of place. Done, he said. He looked at me again. I have the data I need. I will speak to the League. I recommend continued observation and a maintenance check with you in 1 week. No sanctions. No forced action. You can recommend what you like, I said. He did not react. If I hear about a change outside the city, I will come back. You will not hear about one, I said. He inclined his head. Take care of the people here. I already do, I said. He stepped backward into the air with easy control and then rose. He gained height until he cleared the rooftops and then turned toward the sky. He left at low speed so he would not leave a wake or a track in water. Cyborg stayed. He spun his forearm display with his other hand. Audit packets built, he said. I'll scrub out anything that relates to your lattice. I'll include test logs, not raw code. Yes, I said. He looked up the shaft. He liked what he saw. I know, I said. Cyborg tapped his temple with 2 fingers and then pushed off. He took the shaft with controlled output and left with 2 small blasts that did not shake dust off the rafters. I stood at the bridge and watched the traffic values settle back to standard after Superman's wind tests. I did not need to concentrate. It sat where it should. I returned to the service walk and then to the elevator. The chamber lights brightened on entry. The monitors shifted back to full city display. The test records stored automatically. I saved a copy to a secure offline location and then locked the system back into primary mode. Batman spoke once more. The day is yours. Waller will not move until she reads about this. Expect a drone in 12 hours. I will be here, I said. Of course you will, he said. He closed his channel. I opened the files Superman had requested and marked the thresholds he asked for. Fire. Flood. Wind. Quake. Gas. Hospital. I did not include any tuning beyond what was needed to operate safely. I added notes that a non-operator could use. I kept them simple. I did not use jargon where plain words would do. The generator kept its line. The air in the room was cool and dry. The vibration under my palm stayed steady as I checked the panel one more time. The city moved. The field stayed true. The test ended. Chapter 18, The Storm and the Line. The grid held a flat line through the morning. I checked the bridge loads, the transformer temperatures, and the rail harmonics. Every value matched expectation. The generator inside the chamber kept the same tone it had kept for days. I stood at the console and ran a diagnostic on the Narrows subgrid to confirm a minor update had taken. The readout showed clean. Cyborg's trace schemed the eastern edge and paused. He was listening to something off-world. The pause lengthened. His signal jumped back toward Gotham. The alert sounded once on my panel. It was not local. It was a League relay at a known frequency. The message opened without distortion. Superman's voice came through cleanly. Magneto, he said. We have a geomagnetic event inbound. It's significant. I hear you, I said. Solar Observatory registered a large coronal mass ejection, he said. Estimated arrival in 8 hours. The League weather station and the watchtower confirm. This will stress the magnetosphere. Power grids will feel it. We want to avoid blackouts and equipment damage. Details, I said. CME velocity is high, he said. We're seeing strong proton flux in a broad front. That means sustained disturbance. The ground induces currents in long conductors. Grids get harmonics they're not built to carry. Transformers can saturate. Relays trip. The public sees outages. Hospitals go to backup. Emergency services lose comms windows. I want to mitigate in advance. How? I said. My tone remained even. By coordination, he said. You hold Gotham. You do not expand beyond your line. You share your safety thresholds. We integrate them into regional planning. Adjacent cities reroute load to minimize long line induction. You modulate your field to counter induced current on your end. We synchronize timing to avoid interference. You have a plan, I said. We do, he said. Cyborg has a model. I want you on a scheduled loop with him and with me. Batman will manage on-the-ground comms and city agencies. I will monitor the upper atmosphere. If things change, we adjust. I glanced at the chronometer. 8 hours, I said. Correct, he said. We start now. Cyborg's signal dropped into the shaft. He did not land. His voice came in with full focus. I built a regional map, he said. Gotham, Metropolis, Bloodhaven, Keystone, Central City. Coast City is outside the line, but I have a courtesy link. Send your map, I said. He did. The screen rendered the northeastern grid with long transmission corridors and city nodes. Time markers lined the bottom. A model of the incoming disturbance overlaid the map with confidence bands. He had factored soil conductance, river paths, and the length of lines. He had flagged vulnerable elements with red circles. He continued. Big risk zones here, here, and here, he said, pointing with a light tap on the screen that created a temporary highlight. Long lines running north-south are a problem when the storm pushes current east-west. Transformers at the ends saturate. That dumps heat into the cores. Tap changer contacts get rough. Mitigation, I said. Gotham can run a local counterfield to suppress induced current on our long metal, but you can't help a line that's 60 miles away. That's where regional dispatch comes in. We route around when the storm hits the worst. We take feeders off high-risk nodes. We lower the reactive power and manage load to keep things from tripping on their own. Superman added, I'll relay live magnetometer readings. We'll see the wave coming. We set alarms. When a threshold is crossed, we move to the next phase. I will also coordinate with the FAA to keep jets from getting hit by comms loss over your city. Understood, I said. Batman entered the channel. He sounded like he had not moved from where he had been. Gotham agencies are on standby, he said. Hospitals, fire, police, and transit. No panic. No public bulletin. If we avoid outage, we avoid calls that drown the lines. Agreed, Superman said. Cyborg brought up parameters. Magneto, I need your exact numbers, he said. Your safe limits for counterfield strength, your step sizes, your modulation speed, and your thermal tolerance for your generator. I entered the values. Primary safe counterfield at 8% over normal operations for sustained periods, I said. Short-term boost to 14% for less than 1 minute if needed. Modulation speed is near instant across the city subsection level. Generator core thermal can rise 2 degrees above baseline safely for 3 hours. Copy, Cyborg said. He typed fast. I've integrated that into the model. Superman listened. We'll begin with training, he said. We simulate a partial surge at half strength and watch how the system responds. Then we fine-tune. Proceed, I said. Simulation 1, Cyborg said. Localized induced current along Gotham's north-south rail bed. Duration 1 minute. Amplitude half expected. Begin, I said. The display flashed. The model painted a band of induced current along the rail lines. I felt the rails vibrate inside my perception. I lifted my right hand a fraction and increased the counter field locally, matching phase to the induced current vector. The vibration fell. The dummy alarm stayed quiet. Cyborg called out, response time 0.2 seconds. Suppression complete. No spillover into adjacent sectors. Bridge line steady. Superman sounded pleased but careful. Good. Simulation 2. Harbor cranes. Induced current along the long wires with vertical components. Duration 2 minutes. Amplitude at 60%. Begin, I said. The cranes took the input without protest. I increased local counterfield along the crane static lines and ran a damping pattern dated from earlier operations. The hooks did not sway. The load meters stayed inside tolerance. Batman entered one sentence. Harbor reports no swing. Cyborg continued, Simulation 3. Hospital zone. Watch imaging equipment and ICU power. Nothing is connected in reality, but we want to see if noise gets near those lines. Begin, Superman said. The system pressed a shallow pulse into the hospital district. I flattened it instantly and wrapped the local field around the district grid. The simulator reported zero interference at the medical equipment nodes. Cyborg logged all of it. We're good. Superman kept his voice level. That was practice. Now we wait and act when it hits. The first sign will be increased activity in the magnetosphere. You will feel it early. I will see it before that. I am ready, I said. We broke to prepare. I returned to the main chamber and set up the automated responses as backups. I tuned the defense grid without increasing its footprint. I did not extend. I did not touch outside. I checked each city sector again for structural issues I had been monitoring. I locked a crane that had slipped a degree out of calibration. I adjusted a traffic light cabinet that hummed at the wrong tone. I replaced a coil in a subpanel that showed heat a few days back. I kept the base clean. The hours moved quickly. The League alarm pinged. It was time. Superman reopened the channel. CME front reached the outer band, he said. Particle count up. Proton flux strong. First disturbance in 90 minutes. Cyborg said, regional control is on with me. They're ready to shift load. They're waiting on your call. Batman spoke once, calm as always. City is ready. That's it. We waited. I stood with one hand on the steel ring at the center of the console. My other hand rested at my side. I watched the numbers. The generator vibrated with the same tone as before. The air in the room kept a steady chill. Superman's voice cut in. First wave soon. Minor. We treat it as a live test. Understood, I said. Now, Superman said. The edges of the field ticked once like a soft tap against metal. I felt the expansion of pressure through the ground. Long conductors answered it with a gentle rise. I switched the counter field on in small, controlled increments across the rail corridors and the longest power feeders. The numbers steadied before the rise reached the threshold Cyborg set. Cyborg monitored, no anomalies in the first minute. I see tiny currents at the farthest ends. Nothing trips. Second wave in 3 minutes, Superman said. Slightly stronger. I prepared the cranes, the rails, the bridges, the hospital hills, and the older districts where wiring is weak. The second wave hit. It pushed harder. I damped it with precise local corrections. The grid did not ripple. No alarms sounded at fire stations. No clocks lost time. No monitor flickered in a hospital ward. Third wave incoming, Superman said. This is the first significant one. Ready, I said. It arrived with a drawn-out plateau. I expanded my counter field to 8% over normal operations and moved it with the direction of the induced current, not against it. I kept everything those two words mean, local, measured. The long lines that fed the older parts of the city sat without complaint. The poles did not buzz. The substations did not hum. The transformers did not flirt with saturation. Cyborg ran numbers in quick bursts. Your harmonics are clean. No coarse edges. I can't find a place it bites. Batman monitored his boards. No city alerts. Superman spoke slower. He was in space now. Main front is an hour out. We're about to see the big one. No extension beyond my line, I said. Agreed, Superman said. Regional control just moved load at Metropolis and Bloodhaven. Keystone is doing their own thing. They've got experience with this. Central City is quiet. Cyborg patched in a faint voice from a regional operator. The person sounded alert but not panicked. Gotham Ops, we're seeing minor induction on the coastal connector. We're diverting through alternate feed. Hold your pattern. Cyborg muted the line again and kept it in his ear. They're doing fine. We continued. The fronts hit in waves. Each time, I lifted and shaped. Each time, the city sat steady. The bridge supports ticked, then quieted. The train rails trembled, then settled. The cranes held their loads. The traffic controller cabinets did not spike. Hospital equipment register stayed in the green. Then Superman spoke with more tension in his voice. It was not worry. It was focus. Main front in 30 seconds. This will be the one. It will last. Hold steady. Do not chase small noise at the edges. Work the long lines. Keep the substation cores from going into heat. Cyborg added, I'll trigger automatic load roll-off at the worst nodes outside Gotham. You keep your bubble perfect. Understood, I said. Batman gave one sentence. I'm on the fire band. No dispatch. The front hit. The numbers rose. I raised my counter field to the full 8%. The rails wanted to sing. I took away their voice. The long lines wanted to pull heat into the transformers. I bled them with precise phase work so the cores did not saturate. The hospital district had the exact cushion it needed. The harbor cranes grumbled and then sat quiet. The bridges swayed only as they should sway. I moved nothing across a span that Superman had not asked me to move. Minutes stretched. I kept the field where it belonged and adjusted where it needed it. I did not extend outside the city. I did not place a finger on a line that was not mine. I let regional control handle their tasks. I let Cyborg handle the calls with them. Superman held the top and told us what was coming before we saw it. Cyborg said, Metropolis is holding. Bloodhaven took a small hit. They rolled a feeder. It's back. Keystone is stubborn. They ride the wave on grit. Superman said, second plateau. Same strength. No relief for 10 minutes. Breathe. I did not change my pattern. I held the line. I slid small adjustments into the hospital side and relieved a power panel in an older school that had a weak breaker. I widened the safe zones around gas sensors and fire panels and set them to ignore small EMI that would not be real danger. I kept the emergency call centers on high quality, not burst. I stabilized 3 old elevator control rooms that flickered but did not fail. The big front took 35 minutes to pass. When it began to drop, Superman called it. We're off the peak. Stay steady. Do not swing the other way. Let it ease. Yes, I said. It eased. The long lines cooled. The transformers stopped pulling against the field. The rails reduced vibration. The cranes sat quiet. The bridges rested at center. Cyborg breathed. We did it. Batman spoke after him. City pages show no systemic issue. The call volume is normal for this hour. Superman dropped into the atmosphere and spoke with less strain. Next waves will be lower. The worst is gone. We will continue to monitor for 6 hours. Continue, I said. We stayed on until the event tapered to background. There were small pulses, nothing that required more than a moment. The grid's lines returned to normal. The generator sounded exactly as it had at dawn. Superman landed on the roof above the shaft and walked down into the room. He did not ask to be invited. He had earned his steps. He stopped at the edge of the dais and looked at the screens. His shoulders relaxed. His voice matched. You held perfectly, he said. I did what I said I would do, I said. He smiled with restraint. Yes. You did. Cyborg floated down a step and put boots on metal. He looked tired in the human way, not because his systems needed rest, but because the concentration burned a little. He grinned. We stayed inside the numbers, he said happily. No brownouts. No false positives in the gas network. No medical blips. Batman's voice arrived over the channel with one more line. You avoided panic, he said. That matters. It matters because your people continue their day, I said. Superman turned to me. Thank you for staying within the line. You did not extend your field. I said I would not, I said. He nodded. I will file that with the League. You've earned trust on this. If we have another event, I will call you again. You do not need to ask, I said. This is my city. I will keep it steady. He looked at the generator, then back at me. I believe you. He reached out his hand again. I accepted it. He shook once and let go. He took a step back. Cyborg rubbed the back of his neck. I'm going to compile a timeline for the regional controllers, he said. They'll want to show their bosses they kept it together. Send them what they can use, I said. Batman sent a short text packet to both of them and to me. It contained the timeline of city calls and a map of nothing that had gone wrong. The map was empty of incidents. He included no commentary. He closed his channel. Superman lifted his chin a degree. I have to make a pass over the hemisphere to confirm the tail end won't surprise anyone. I'll be back later. Go, I said. He left with a slow rise and a clean exit through the shaft. He did not leave a sound. Cyborg stayed. He pulled up the recorded graphs and sat on the edge of the dais with both feet planted. He looked at the lines like a man looks at a project he built with his own hands. His voice came out light. I can guess what Waller is going to say, he said. She'll claim it was luck. It was not luck, I said. He laughed softly. No. It wasn't. He stood and shut off the projection he had been using. I'm going to grab some food and then keep watching. Ping me if you see anything odd. I will, I said. He took off through the shaft and vanished from the instrument panel as a blur of numbers that slowed and disappeared into the east. I remained at the console. I ran a post-event scan across the city. I checked every transformer temperature for spikes. I printed a private log of the adjustments I had made with exact timestamps. I filed it in the secure archive. I took a slow walk around the chamber. I put my hands on the plates. The metal kept steady temperature. The seam lines did not show hairline cracks. I examined the generator coil and then replaced one minor fastener with a slightly better one I formed from a rough bolt off a shelf. I set the old one aside. I felt a faint satisfaction and let it pass. I raised a citywide wildlife check. The birds were where they should be. The fish near the pylons were where they had been earlier. The bats would not be out again until evening. The training yard transformer showed no heat. The gas training house, which had been the test site, was exactly as before. The numbers returned to quiet. Batman pinged once, a single word. Good. I responded with one word. Yes. He closed. I stood at the center of the room as the hum of the generator continued at the same intensity it had kept since the first day. The city remained stable after a natural event that could have been an excuse for failure. There was no failure here. I turned back to the console and began preparing the briefing Superman had asked for: safety thresholds used during the storm, adjustments logged, timings, and a list of places where I had intervened. I did not include anything beyond that. I wrote clearly and simply. I sent it to Cyborg and to Superman. Cyborg replied after 2 minutes. Received, he said. This is perfect. Superman replied after 8 minutes. Received, he said. Thank you. I closed both windows. Above ground, the water on the river settled. The sky over the bay was clear. The cranes resumed work. The trains kept their rhythm. The people of the city moved across streets and through doorways without noticing the thing that had not happened. I kept it that way. Chapter 19, The Quiet Trace. The grid kept its line. The bridge tension sat inside limits. The rail harmonics matched pattern. The harbor cranes moved cleanly. I stood at the console and checked the Narrows subgrid again. Its numbers were calm. Wind at the bay was low. Traffic on the river bridge was light. The generator's tone was steady. The alert came through as a small discrepancy. It appeared in the Narrows east panel at the end of a maintenance street behind a locked gate. It was not a surge. It was not load. It was a trace at the edge of my perception. The resonance looked wrong by a fraction and then vanished. I did not feel it through metal. I saw it in absence. Something had muted a slice of the magnetic field and then let it go. The value returned to normal and stayed there. I watched the panel for 3 minutes. Once every 30 seconds, the field dipped by a unit too small to trigger any city sensor. The pattern was regular. Someone was pulsing a cloak. The timing was deliberate. The purpose was not load. It was cover. I opened the secure channel. "Cyborg," I said. His response was immediate. "Here. Narrows east panel. I have selective suppression at the edge of detection." "It is not random," I said. "I'm on it," he said. His trace moved along the perimeter and dropped fast toward the Narrows. "Give me a marker." I marked the location on the city map and pushed it to him. The panel sat in a lane behind a closed storefront and a row of stacked pallets. The metal enclosure was standard city equipment with 4 latches and a grounded frame. Batman entered the channel without greeting. His tone was low. "Details. Anti-magnetic cloak, pulsed. It masks intrusive movement at a city cabinet," I said. "It is small. It is at the limit of detection." "A hardware tap," he said. "Yes," I said. "It will sit between the lines and read without load." "Waller," he said. "Yes," I said. He did not change his voice. "We keep power on. We do not alarm the area. We trace, locate, remove, and keep your base secure." "Agreed," I said. Cyborg's signal slipped into the local air and moved along rooftops. "I'm almost overhead," he said. "I'll stay high. If they brought a cloak, they may have a looker." "Batman," I said. "Already moving," he said. I checked the panel again. The pulse dipped every 30 seconds. It was identical each time. The cloak sat in a calm rhythm, confident in its mask. It did not know I could see it by the gap. I raised my hand and slid tension from the surrounding rebar to ease vibration. The lane fell silent in my perception. I felt the cloak against stillness. It was a smooth bubble pressed into air. It did not echo through metal. It refused every method I used to feel it directly. It was careful. It was not beyond me. I took to the surface. The lift carried me up through the shaft. The door opened onto empty concrete and a cold wind. I crossed the blocks by foot at first, then lifted and moved at low height above roofs, below line of sight from the street. I descended 2 buildings before the panel. I did not step onto the lane. I stayed on the roof and watched. The cloak pulsed once. It flattened the field in a circle with a radius of 2 meters. It was not perfect. It could not erase cap screws in a hinge or a nail in a board. It pressed around them like a rubber skin, but a sliver of their resonance still tapped out a pattern. It was enough. Cyborg hovered 2 rooftops west. He did not ignite anything that would hiss against metal. He spoke quietly. "I have visual on 2 shapes in the lane. One is the cabinet. The other sits in the corner. I can't see it with optics. I can see its outline in air movement. He has a cloak suit. It's Argus grade, maybe better. Waller, Batman said. Agreed, Cyborg said. The second is a drone the size of a hand. It's sitting under a pallet. It's passively listening. It's not transmitting. Relay on a timer, Batman said. He taps the cabinet with hardware, lets the drone soak, and either picks it up later or waits for a burst. Cyborg adjusted his angle. In the last 5 minutes I count 9 pulses. He's consistent. I scanned the nearby traffic. 2 pedestrians passed at the far end of the lane and did not enter. A delivery truck idled a block over. A cat sat on a dumpster lid and watched air. There were no civilians nearby. Batman's voice came in tight. I am in the stairwell next to the lane. I can reach the panel in 3 seconds. Cyborg, you are my eye. Magneto, you keep the field stable and hold the drone. If the infiltrator runs, you stop him without causing a scene. Understood, I said. Cyborg drew a small notch in his tone. He has a hand on the bottom latch. The cloak pulsed. The bottom latch clicked. The panel opened a sliver. I felt the hinge screws push against my field and then drop when the cloak pressed back. The infiltrator lifted the door by a centimeter and slid a tool inside. He did not disturb the main breakers. He reached behind them with a narrow clamp. He clipped onto a neutral line and a telemetry wire with a pair of inductive rings. He slid a gray disc into the gap behind the wire bundle. It seated flush against the back plate. It was thin and precise. It belonged in a lab, not a lane. Tap confirmed, Cyborg said quietly. It's a coupler with a microcell. It is dormant. It will wake on a coded command. Drone? Batman asked. Still passive, Cyborg said. It is an audio and induction buffer. It will feed the coupler a trickle when the signal comes. Move, Batman said. He stepped into the lane with calm speed, not a rush. His boots did not scrape. He crossed the last 2 meters in a quiet line. The cloak pulsed. He did not enter the circle. He reached to the cabinet and set 2 magnets. The door latched back as if it had never been touched. The infiltrator jerked his tool free before it pinched him. He released the cloak and then re-engaged as a reflex. The motion created a signature I could hold. I closed my fist. The screws in the bottom plate beneath his feet spun and locked to the deck. They held his solace with clean force. He tried to move. He could not lift. He pressed the pulse. The field thickened. I read it as pressure and kept the metal at his feet clamped. Batman straightened slowly and spoke without looking at the circle. Argus, he said. You are trespassing. You will remove your hands from the cabinet and step back. The infiltrator did not answer. He stayed silent because he had been trained to stay silent. He adjusted the belt under his cloak and reached for a button to melt into the shadow. I tightened the screws and pulled a small plate upward through the rubber of his sole. It pressed against his arch. He stopped moving. Cyborg's voice stayed calm. Drone is waking. Hold it, Batman said. I have it, I said. I lifted the drone by its screws. It tried to resist by increasing weight through internal motors. It failed. It hung in air. I put it on the top of the cabinet where the camera could not see it from street height. I turned its antenna away from the coupler. It went quiet. Batman reached into his belt and took out a small card with 2 prongs. He slid it along the bottom edge of the cabinet door where no one would see it. He touched a screw head with the prongs and the cabinet's alarm line tripped for 1/10 of a second and reset. It created a log entry that said the door was opened and closed for inspection. It would keep the city's records clean. He looked at the outline in the cloak and then at the hinge. He said one sentence. Move your hand out slowly. The infiltrator obeyed. The glove slipped free of the seam. It was matte black. He held it in the air. Batman did not touch him. Magneto, Batman said. Peel his belt off. I pulled the metal at the clasp and let the cloak drape. A rectangle at his waist shifted position and clicked. The pulse flickered. It did not drop. Cyborg watched for a second angle. There's a hard kill on the cloak inside the seam at the neck. It's spring-loaded. If he tries to drop sign, he will pop a flash. I will not allow it, I said. Batman held his palm up toward the chest area at the outline of a man. He stood within a meter and did not tense. Your system works until you use the failsafe, he said. Do not use it. The infiltrator did not speak. He opened his fingers as if to show empty hands. He stayed in place and adjusted weight. He tried slight movements, shifting to test hold points. The screws kept him clean and still. Cyborg's tone shifted. We have a third element, he said. A vehicle at the end of the block with commons plates. 2 people inside. 1 camera. They are not locals. They are not city. They have a listening box. Argus observers, Batman said. Yes, Cyborg said. Do not alarm them, Batman said. Keep them satisfied. I can feed them a fake, Cyborg said. Do it, Batman said. Cyborg lifted 2 fingers and worked his forearm without noise. I'm giving them a calm hum and a soft bump on a streetlight 2 blocks away. Their tech will see what they expect, a glitch with no story. They will log, and they will not move. The infiltrator exhaled once. He tried to lower his head to see under the cloak. The seam sat still and did not show his face. Batman held his ground and spoke again, quiet and even. You placed a coupler on a city cabinet with federal authorization. You will deny if asked, he said. You are done. You will step back. I loosened the screws enough to allow a half step. The infiltrator complied. He moved with small motions, the kind that show habit and training. He kept his hands where Batman could see them. He seemed to calculate what he could do. He saw no way out. He did not fight. Cyborg, Batman said. Record the coupler. Recording, he said. Image and RF signature captured. Drone, Batman said. I kept it pinched against the cabinet. It did not twitch. Its power read low. I drew its battery bolts and turned them 90 degrees inside their casing so it would not take a charge. Magneto, Batman said. Tap. I reached behind the breaker bundles with clean control. I took the coupler by its thin rim and slid it out from the back plate without touching the energized bars. I held it in air. I did not crush it. I let Cyborg's camera take a clear view. He captured serial marks and manufacturing lines. He sent them to himself, to Batman, and to my archive. Copy that, Cyborg said. It matches Argus internal spec, not Cadmus stock. This is new. It is a field test. Remove it, Batman said. I turned the coupler's internal coil 45 degrees. It broke the calibration. It would never read properly again. I opened the seam and took out the microcell. I flattened the contacts with a touch. I added the damaged parts to a pile beside the cabinet where they looked like debris that had been there for months. The infiltrator stayed quiet and watched nothing through a mask that showed nothing. He shifted weight again. He wanted to run. He had decided not to try. Batman turned his head a fraction toward the end of the lane. You will walk to the corner and turn right, he said. You will leave your drone. You will not return to this cabinet. You will not use your cloak again within Gotham without expecting a harder response. The infiltrator hesitated and then nodded once. The motion barely showed in the seam of the hood. I loosened the screws under his solace and drew the plate back into the floor. He stepped with care and left the lane. Cyborg watched the observers in the car. "They look bored," he said. "They are still logging the light glitch I gave them." "Good," Batman said. I pulled the cabinet door open a centimeter and then closed it to clear my mark. I tightened the latches. I reset the hinge screws to their original alignment. I looked inside and checked for residue. There was none. The wiring looked as it had looked. Cyborg floated down and put a hand on the top of the cabinet. He slid a test probe under the door just to satisfy himself. He smiled slightly. "Clean," he said. We exited the lane without drawing attention. Batman did not slow. He stepped into the stairwell and moved up in silence. I returned to the roof and watched the car at the end of the block. It idled for 3 minutes, then drove away. I let it go. I could have lifted a wheel nut and held it until a call went out. I did not. I wanted no report. I wanted no paperwork. I wanted quiet. Back in the chamber, I saved the recording of the event with exact times. I added the measured pulse of the cloak as a new signature to the grid's library. The device used a layered mask with frequency hopping. It was better than the last one I had seen. It would not be good again. The grid would treat it as a hole to be filled and it would fill it. Cyborg dropped to the base and stood at the edge of the dais. His face carried alert interest with a line of satisfaction. "That was clean," he said. "You felt him by absence. That was smart." "I do not lose sight of what is mine," I said. He nodded. "I'll build a monitor for that pulse rhythm. I'll keep it light so it doesn't ping all day on every noise." "Do it," I said. Batman came down through the far door. He did not sit. He looked at the console and then at me. "Waller sent one man and a listener," he said. "She wanted to test hardware without a firefight." "She wanted proof of access," I said. "She did not get it," he said. "She will claim she did," Cyborg said. Batman's mouth moved a fraction. "She can claim what she wants," he said. "It will not get her a second try." He pointed at the map. "We expand watch to 6 more cabinets in the Narrows and 2 near the river. She will try a different location. She may go after a street light controller or a switchyard that looks unattended." "She will not," I said. "The field will not tolerate it." Cyborg rubbed the corner of his eye with a knuckle and smiled thinly. "You two make a good pair when you are both irritated." Batman ignored the comment. "We run a sweep before night," he said. "Yes," I said. "We set a schedule." Cyborg took the east. Batman took the rooftops along the waterfront. I took the network itself. I raised the sensitivity below standard on 8 cabinets and balanced it by lowering it on adjacent ones so the field's overall hum stayed flat to anyone who was listening with poor tools. I did not leave obvious DIPs. I drew a tight mesh. I traced for the absence and found none. 2 hours passed. The city moved in normal rhythm. Workers returned from lunch in trucks with loud shocks. The cranes lifted containers from a freighter with careful speed. A trolley rolled. A school emptied. The cabinets kept their entries, unremarkable and regular. The coupler was gone and did not attempt to call for a parent. It lay in pieces where I left it. The drone slept on the cabinet until I pocketed it and walked it into the base. I dismantled it and logged each part. Cyborg came back to the dais and placed a portable case on my console. He tapped it. "I want to leave this," he said. "It's a recorder that only stores the cloak's pulse signature. No audio. No video. It is not a leak. It sits in your room. It is yours. It helps me build a better filter. That's it." I opened the case and examined the board. It had clean lines and minimal parts. He had not added an antenna that could talk to anyone. It was a tool, not a spy. Leave it, I said. He nodded. Thanks. He took a breath and let it go. Batman and I will run the evening sweep. You will get quiet until Waller's next move. She will not make the same one twice. I expect her to try a new angle, I said. He smiled without humor. She always does. Batman did not stay. He left to deal with a call that came on his band. He did not explain. He did not have to. I sent the drone serial to his private channel with a note that the screws had been removed and placed in a jar. He acknowledged with a single word. I sat at the console and built a new detection layer. It did not hunt for the device itself. It hunted for the lack that a device must create to hide. I set thresholds slightly above noise and only within lanes where a cabinet sat. I did not flag doors or windows or cars. I flagged the clean circles that push against metal and air. I drew the circles on my map where the cabinet boxes would accept that shape. I waited. The city returned nothing. At dusk, the sky over the bay went grey. The river lights came on. The bridge showed its low arc of headlights. The numbers on the generators in the south zone climbed slowly as people returned home. The field kept steady. The cabinet logs stayed inside the line. Cyborg pinged. Run complete, he said. All clear. Batman pinged. All clear, he said. I responded. All clear, I said. I went to the workbench and set the drone parts in a flat tray. There were 6 pieces that mattered: a shell, a board, a battery, a coil, a mic, and a transmitter. I drew lines on a notepad with a pencil to mark what each one had done. I did not enjoy the task. I completed it because it was required. Cyborg sent a small packet. It contained the serial run from Argus procurement that matched the coil. He had traced it to a vendor with a bland name. He had attached a note. Fake company. Real delivery. Waller. Batman sent a different note. It contained a name that belonged to the man who had worn the cloak. The name was a placeholder. It would not remain the name that man used. It did not matter. He would not return under a cloak to that lane. I shut the messages and kept the city steady through the evening. I adjusted 3 lights that buzzed too loudly and might annoy someone into calling the city. I eased a rail that wanted to ring. I helped a crane operator stop a hook from small sway by increasing resistance in a cable so he would think he had improved his own touch. It cost nothing. It kept the night calm. Near midnight, I walked back to the tray and picked up the coupler ring. I turned it slowly and felt its weight. I remembered the fraction of stillness it had used. I set it down gently and closed the tray. I locked it in a drawer and returned to the console. The map displayed the narrow lanes with the cabinets marked in small squares. None of them pulsed with absence. None of them moved. The generator maintained its sound. The air in the chamber stayed at its measured cool. The city ran. I let it. Chapter 20, Terms on the Wire. The grid held its values through the afternoon. The bridges reported normal tension. The transit rails ran on time. The harbor cranes moved without error. The generator kept a steady tone. I checked the narrows panels twice and found no gaps. Cyborg's trace approached and hovered at the perimeter. He sent a short ping. Packet incoming, he said. League protocol draft. Read only for now. Send it, I said. The document arrived on a secured channel. It carried the watchtower header and a verification tag assigned to Superman. It outlined a proposed operating protocol. The sections were labeled plainly. Joint drills. Emergency contact chain. Data sharing limits. Inspection requests. Remote access proposals. Audit procedures. All of it was written for use, not for show. That was his hand. I read each clause. I marked what I would accept and what I would refuse. I allowed drills inside Gotham under my control. I allowed a read-only telemetry gateway with one-way transmission. I allowed scheduled reports for safety thresholds and incident summaries. I refused any clause that enabled remote access to the grid. I refused any external kill switch. I refused any inspection of my core systems. Cyborg spoke again. They want a meeting, he said. Batman, me, Superman. Wonder Woman on Secure Link. Jayon on Secure Link. No one else. Location, I said. Your base, he said. They chose it on purpose. That puts you in the seat. They are not hiding that. Time, I said. 30 minutes, he said. Proceed, I said. I prepared the chamber. I cleared the secondary dais and locked the core